In this video, where to stay in Asuncion, Paraguay. Maybe you're coming for a couple days to get residency. Maybe you want to stay a couple months in an Airbnb, lay low, low cost of living, and check out the country. Whatever duration you want to stay, we're going to kind of cover this in the video. The best neighborhoods to stay in Asuncion, so you know where to book your next hotel or Airbnb. So Asuncion, by the way, is like a 4.5 million person city. It's really quite gigantic. And the historic downtown, in other words, the centro, is here near the water, near the Rio Paraguay. It's named Paraguay, the country after the river. So this is the Paraguay River here. And you can see that the city was kind of built on a bay. It's called the Bahía de Asuncion. And so when the Spanish conquistadors came up the river, they said, well, why don't we make the city where this bay is so that our boats can kind of dock in a safe marina, a safe harbor. And so that's how the city of Asuncion came to be about 500 years ago. And the original part of the city was really down here. You have this neighborhood called Sajonia here. It's quite rough, not like in a dangerous way, but it's quite rough because it's old. It's not in the best condition, and it's a little bit prone to flooding, especially in certain places. Like this river is massive and can certainly flood out. So Sajonia, historic neighborhood, you're not going to want to stay there. And then we have the historic center. So really like the beating heart of the historic center of Paraguay would be this Pantheon, the Pantheon national to the heroes. And you can see it's kind of on this park, and then there's, food all up and down this street called Palma. So Palma is kind of the most important street in the historic center here. Passes by the Pantheon and the park. And there's kind of two parks here. And then there's this kind of unorganized area, and then you have the costanera, in other words, like the boardwalk. And there is a little beach here. It's not the most swimmable. You can't really swim, but there's little boats that'll take you on like a boat trip, which is fun, and you can play volleyball and hang out. So basically you have the costanera, then you have Chacarita and these other sort of unorganized areas that often flood out. And then you have the historic center here. And long story short, a lot of people make the mistake of staying in the historic center, but you probably shouldn't do that. I mean, if you are doing paperwork in Paraguay, I understand that you might want to stay in the historic center because a lot of the paperwork gets done in the center, but still, don't do it. The center is going to give you a bad impression of Paraguay. It's a little bit run down, and this is not something that's unique only to Asuncion, Paraguay. Really, a lot of downtowns or historic centers in a lot of Latin American cities tend to be a little sketchy, a little rough, a little dangerous, a little bit more delinquent, and Asuncion I would put in that category. Other cities like that might be San Jose, Costa Rica, or Sao Paulo, Brazil. Trying to think where else, but it's kind of like that Sao Paulo type of thing where the downtown is really just not where you want to stay, even though it's got some cool buildings. So anyway, so this is the downtown. You don't want to stay anywhere here, but I wanted to give that that reminder or that information up front that you don't want to stay downtown, but also give you a little bit more of the context about how the city kind of grew into what it is today. Now, as we make our way east, this is where we're getting into the nice part of Asuncion. I guess as a reminder, Asuncion is really quite big, and then there's also these sort of neighboring barrios called Lambaré. I guess they're technically cities. Fernando de la Mora, San Lorenzo, Niembi. So you have all these different municipalities basically outside of Asuncion. They're all reasonably safe, but they're humble, they're modest. working class type of areas. And then really the nice area of Asuncion is roughly within sort of this triangle-ish shape, where kind of starting at Mariscal Lopez, you're starting to have nice houses here on these side streets. And as you work your way east, you're going to get up to where we have the two malls. So we have Shopping del Sol and we have Paseo La Galeria, and they're just kind of on opposite sides of the street here. So these are two malls, and this is kind of like the hub of Asuncion in terms of upscale, first world amenities, big box stores, you name it, right? That's all going on these two fancy high-end malls. And honestly, these malls are nice. Like, this is a first world mall. Like, this is nicer than malls in the States sometimes. So the malls are nice. And then basically anything around the malls is where you want to stay. In any direction is basically fine. So there's this area, hard to pronounce, it's called Iquasati, and this is all really nice. There's not a lot of Google Maps here, but it's like all like nice houses, kind of mansions, a mix, kind of like mixed use areas too, where there's corner stores and hair salons and a couple bars and all that type of stuff. So Iquasati, nice area. San Cristobal here, still nice area. Villa Mora, sorry. This is one of the nicest areas. So this is kind of like the expat international hub, Villa Mora. South of that, we have Recoleta, also very nice. This is where you have like the cemetery of Recoleta, like the oldest, most famous cemetery. But then you come over here and it's like really nice bar areas. I wonder how outdated these photos are. Okay, anyway, so this is inside another mall that they have here. But Recoleta, anywhere in here, can't go wrong. This is all quite nice as well. So Villa Mora is nice. On this side you have Manora, and then which is kind of like a small area. People don't really call it that. And then you have Las Lomas. So Las Lomas is all really nice, like mansions, very safe. It's a shame there's no street view, but it's like basically all mansions and really nice houses. And then you have this park here, Parque de la Salud, where you could come walk at if you stayed around here. Santo Domingo here, also very nice. There's a couple embassies and consulates and stuff like that in this area. Let's see if I can find one. Embajador de India, Ecuador and Paraguay. Right, so embassies and stuff. So this is all nice. Over here, a little bit rough. One thing you can do in Latin America is when you see like these little rivers or like arroyo, usually this is like a blackwater river where, it's probably not nice along it. It's probably like trash basically. So that's the case here in Asuncion, and I think that's the case in a lot of cities in Mexico and elsewhere. So I would not stay in Bella Vista. I would avoid this whole area. There is some reasonably nice sections here in Mariscal Lopez and then also in Jara. Jara is a little cheaper, a little bit more working class, but like in here is still like quite nice. And then here's a mess. Like in here, I wouldn't go anywhere near in here. Here, a little bit rough as well too. Not like super bad or anything, but honestly, I don't know the area super well. So what I would say is basically anywhere east of this street, Santísimo Sacramento, you're basically good. And then anywhere east of Choferes del Chaco, you're good. So just sort of think of this as the line. Follow this up. This is the line. And then anywhere east here is like really good. Even, we didn't talk about it, but coming up here towards the zoo and the botanical garden, This whole area called Mburukuya is quite nice as well. You have mansions, you have a couple tall modern buildings, you got paddle, can't go without paddle. So this whole area is very nice. A lot of the richest people in the city also live in this area. And then here, closer to Parque Nuazu, isn't like the best. Like this isn't like super, you would think like right near the park would be super desirable, like up in here and kind of like in between the two parks. Honestly, it's not the most desirable area. It's still good. Like, you know, it is kind of an interesting spot where you could stay, but even if you were here, the parks wouldn't really be walkable because just the way these streets are and where the entrances are, more or less. But in any case, so really where you want to be is just within like a 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk of the mall in any direction. If you can get within a 10 to 15-minute walk of Paseo La Galleria and Shopping del Sol in any direction, you're good. So anywhere here, anywhere up in here, anywhere here, anywhere here, over here in San Jorge, down here in Iquasati, basically like anywhere within this kind of square, and then also Recoleta, and even in here is like not super bad either. But that's basically the game plan, is think of it as like a concentric circle with the malls as the center, and then a whole bunch of neighborhoods roughly equidistant all around the mall. Now, if I had to pick the absolute best neighborhood to stay in, like where do you want to stay? I would probably say stay near Cafe de Acá. So you could stay somewhere in here, because really like a lot of the best bars and nightclubs are in this area of Villa Mora. So again, this is Villa Mora. Over on this western side around Plaza Olímpica is more residential. So this is like almost purely residential. And then here, there's some bars in here. There's bars and shopping in here, and then also along this street. So yeah, most of the action in this city, you know, you got Paseo Carmelitas, you got Kilkenny Bar, McCarthy's, all this stuff. So this is a big bar street right here, and Cafe de Acá is like the most famous cafe in Asuncion. So really like anywhere in here is basically where I would try to stay. So kind of close to the Hard Rock, I guess, if you needed something to locate yourself. I think like right in here, also behind the mall, is really good on either side. So if you're, for example, I think this is a nice building. Well, there's a couple nice buildings here. So right in behind this mall, or in here behind this mall. So if you can get in basically like on a street, literally right beside the mall, that's pretty sick as well. So I would say right in here, like right as close to the mall as possible. Or if you're younger and want to be close to the bars, I would say here. But really any age group could kind of technically be around here. But yeah, these would be the two best tiny little areas, I would say, for most people in Asuncion. So with that, hopefully this video has given you a little bit better of an understanding of where to stay in Asuncion. It's a big city, as we talked about. It's a city where you don't want to stay in the historic center, as we talked about, and you want to stay near the malls. If you can do that, you're going to have an incredible experience in Asuncion. You're going to be very surprised and delighted about really everything about the country. So come in, airport's right here, quick Uber ride from the airport to whatever hotel or Airbnb you choose, and I wish you a great time in Asuncion. And by the way, if you're interested in residency in Paraguay, My Latin Life, we're an immigration consultant. We help tons of people, especially Americans and Canadians, get residency in Paraguay, and we'd be happy to take care of your Paraguay residency. So hit us up. Lots of ways to get in touch.